Hello everyone. Thank you for choosing and for attending our today's session, an infrastructure agnostic approach to SAP application operation. I am very glad that you will spend the next roughly 30 minutes with us. Us, that is usually myself, Fabian Boske, and also my colleague Miguel Melicias. However, today for the digital session, it is only me. So I hope you also spend some time with us at the physical SuseCon at our talk, because there I am also joined by Miguel, who is actually our leading architect for FlexFrame, which we are introducing here and which I am the product manager for. So please, let's get started without further ado. I briefly want to talk about the agenda for today. So firstly, we are talking about the challenges that occur in large SAP environments and that our customers face. In the second part, we want to talk about how we are addressing these challenges with FlexFrame. And after that, we want to introduce the new FlexFrame that will be coming next year. So talking about what is going to change, what will be new there. And in the end, of course, there will be some time to ask questions. However, I think that mainly applies to the physical SuseCon. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact us via the shown email addresses. So what are the challenges for organizations when operating their SAP environments? So generally speaking, there are quite a few challenges. We have selected the most common ones that we see with our customers and that FlexFrame can address. So first one, heterogeneous infrastructure. That means organizations usually have hardware, software from different vendors for several reasons. That could be strategy, cost, functionality, whatever it is. And they have to keep track of what kind of hardware and software they have, where it is located, and then also the patch levels, because you have to do vulnerability management and updates from time to time. So that can be really much effort to keep track of that, but you have to do it. Secondly, availability of SAP applications. That's probably the most important one, because SAP applications are at the core of the enterprise, usually with ERP and CRM systems being really important. And the things that IT admins have to cope with are scheduled downtimes. They are necessary. Sometimes that gets really hard for companies, especially those that are active in e-commerce and have to have a availability of 100%. So it gets really hard to get scheduled downtimes for the IT admins, but they have to keep patching their infrastructure. So this can be a point of conflict between IT and the business departments. And then, of course, the even worse scenario is unscheduled downtimes. So something that wasn't expected, caused by a failing hardware component or bug in the software. And this can be really costly if it takes some time to resolve and the company cannot do any business. Third challenge is the support with different vendors. As mentioned earlier, you also have to do kind of a vendor management. You have to, in the case of an incident, you have to talk to different vendor support hotlines. They have different routes, and of course they also may have different SLAs. And it can cause finger pointing between different entities. So maybe the hardware vendor says it's being caused by the software vendor says it's being caused by the hardware. So the finger pointing begins. And overall, this leads to very high complexity within the infrastructure that IT admins, SAP basis admins have to cope with. And this gets very costly. And they do not have time for the things they actually want to do, actually need to do, and they cannot effectively support the business. So, for example, it can take really long to implement change requests that come from the business departments, such as provisioning a new system due to a business requirement. That can take a very long time because the IT department, SAP basis department is occupied with things that are necessary to keep the infrastructure running, but are not really productive and do not benefit their business. So this is all very challenging, and this is what we are trying to address with FlexFrame. So the motto of FlexFrame is actually any SAP service at any time, at any server, be it physical or virtual. And you can already see that flexibility is a very, very important thing within FlexFrame. So these are lots of promises condensed into one sentence. So let's have a look at how we actually do it. So here we are taking a look at the key functionalities of FlexFrame that help us realize the motto, realize the vision of FlexFrame. So FlexFrame manages the whole SAP landscape using Fujitsu Primary servers, SUSE Enterprise Linux Server, shared storage based on NetApp, and Cisco switches for the networking. And here you can see 4 pieces of the puzzle. Of course, there are more pieces, but we have selected these as the most important ones. Firstly, the shared image. So the shared image concept is something that we have created together with SUSE, which basically lets us use a golden image, a master image, however you want to call it, across multiple nodes, our so-called application nodes that host the application. And this means that the application nodes, when they boot, they get their image from the central storage via netboot, and this actually makes OS upgrades as easy as just rebooting a node, because the nodes can be assigned the latest image and then they can be rebooted, and when rebooting they take the latest image. So this is one part of the picture. The other one is the application virtualization, and this goes actually hand in hand with the shared image, because here we create a decoupling of the application and the operating system. Also, in this case, we have central storage, and the data and the configuration is again being stored centrally. So this means it can be quickly assigned between the nodes, and it can be reassigned. And if you think about that, if you reboot a node, for example, to upgrade the operating system, that means before rebooting, you can very quickly reassign the application to another node, to a different one, and then you reboot your original node, which then gets an upgraded operating system. And after that, you can just move back your application to the original node and then maybe reboot the other node, so that you have done your OS upgrades in a very short period of time without effectively moving any data around, because it's just a reassignment, mapping of directories in a central storage, so that you can do that in a very short period of time. Additionally, we have in FlexFrame monitoring and self-healing. So we have an agent concept that actively monitors applications. And when it finds that applications do not respond due to hanging processes or whatever, they can start to try and do some mitigations. This can be either an automatic restart of the hanging process, it can be the restart of a server, or can be, of course, reassignment to other nodes. So this is how we are ensuring high availability of the application within FlexFrame. And this also has or is being supported by the application virtualization, of course, because this uses the concept of the application virtualization to quickly reassign the applications to other nodes if one is failing. And last but not least, in FlexFrame we have workload isolation. So we can create different pools for different environments or maybe even different organizations. So that, for example, you can separate your productive environment from the development and the test systems. So for each one, you will create a pool and then they are totally separated from each other. But there may also be regulatory requirements that would require you to maybe separate one part of the organization from the other or whatever. So this can be done with FlexFrame, and these are the most important concepts in FlexFrame at a glance, in a very, very brief overview. So the FlexFrame concept and its core functionalities do support customers in their SAP basis operation, and they create lots of efficiency gains. And this is not only a claim made by us, this has actually been supported by a study that has been conducted by the analyst firm Forrester. And so they found at the customer who migrated 3 SAP data centers into one that not only the project could be realized in very, very high speed, but it also created lots of efficiency gains that could be measured for the customer. So as the prime flex, as we call the whole concept, the whole solution, the prime flex for SAP landscapes, which the FlexFrame Orchestrator is a part of, as this can assign virtual and physical system resources on the fly in a self-service fashion, the SAP team was now able to use infrastructure resources without needing any manual help from the IT team. So consequentially, the provisioning time went down from more than 20 days previously to now a maximum of 2 days. And the overall cost savings in operations were estimated to be around 24% annually. Pooling system resources meant that peak loads for business intelligence could be mitigated by quickly assigning more compute power, with the result that BI could be accelerated by a factor of 13. And furthermore, the inherent high availability functions reduce the overall downtime significantly. I think this is very impressive, and the feedback from our other customers actually support these findings. So FlexFrame itself, as it is today, is actually quite impressive and helps our customers a lot. But we are not stopping here, and therefore we are presenting the new era of FlexFrame. Beginning of next year, we will introduce a completely renewed FlexFrame. And when I say completely renewed, I actually mean completely renewed, because we are at the moment heavily working on re-implementing the whole platform using new technologies, opening up even more so that we can support all customer requirements and new infrastructures. And that is what we will have a look at on the next slides. So firstly, let us have a look at how FlexFrame evolved over the past years. Basically, it all started out as a collection of scripts that helped SAP basis admins with their day-to-day operation. But after it was evident that these scripts were very, very useful for plenty of customers, FlexFrame was being productized. That means professional support and maintenance was added, and the product was maintained and grew in functionality. So more and more customers got on board, and so the product evolved until the first major change happened in 2013. FlexFrame Orchestrator was launched. And FlexFrame Orchestrator addressed a couple of new challenges, but still was addressing the same customer base and was designed and mainly being used by very large customers. Customers that had very complex SAP landscapes and struggled to maintain them efficiently. And this is where FlexFrame came in and supported them in their operations. However, FlexFrame was a bit too complex for smaller customers with smaller environments, and they could not benefit from FlexFrame efficiency gains that quickly, because FlexFrame itself has a quite steep learning curve. And this is actually one of the things that we are addressing with the new FlexFrame. So FlexFrame is opening up and gets more intuitive, gets more customizable, so that it also fits the needs of smaller customers and they can profit from the efficiency gains that will come with FlexFrame. So with the new FlexFrame platform, there are quite a few changes happening, and we want to go into these one by one, and we have actually split these into three major topics that we see are increasingly important to organizations. So FlexFrame is designed to being very individual, being flexible, and being sustainable. And we are looking at each area one by one in the following. Let's firstly look at individual. Why is the new FlexFrame individual? It is actually designed to be highly modular. We define default behaviors, but customers can adapt these by using hooks, which would even allow them to define own actions in response to events that happen in the landscape. Additionally, we will support deeper organizational levels to improve the way organizations, locations, and environments can be separate from each other. There will be three levels: organizations, tenants, and subtenants. Larger enterprises get more granular control over their resources, while smaller organizations may only use 1 or 2 levels and therefore can keep it simple. A REST API can be used for own automation and data exchange with other applications. So it integrates seamlessly with the rest of the IT landscape. Additional operating system image concepts will allow customers to use the concepts that suit them best. So there will be shared images, which we have already talked about for the highest standardization. There will be bootable images for when you need to do some adjustments to the master image. And there will be installable images for all those corner cases that require the highest independence possible. And last but not least, a customizable GUI will support all operations that can be done in FlexFrame. So the GUI will talk to the REST API, and with that, from the GUI, everything can be done, everything can be viewed from a single point of view, and everything can be managed. So FlexFrame, as the name suggests, is intended to be highly flexible, and we are working on making FlexFrame even more flexible. So in the future, we will be supporting different types of infrastructure by introducing another abstraction layer. The so-called system providers provide resources that applications can utilize, and they do not really have to care about where these resources actually come from. In the past, we were mainly focusing on Fujitsu Primargy server infrastructure, NetApp shared storage, and Cisco networking. And with the new FlexFrame, customers can now bring their own infrastructure, for example, based on a VMware cluster or infrastructure from a public cloud provider. But of course, they still can opt for the bare metal option, which is essentially the model that we currently have in our FlexFrame. Using templates, SAP applications can be deployed faster than ever in a now automated way. They can be deployed repeatedly on any kind of infrastructure, meaning on any system provider that you can see here. And they can be moved between these system providers. The precondition being that a shared storage for the data is available, and components of an application can even run on different system providers, meaning on different underlying infrastructure. So parts of the application, components of the application could run on-prem while other parts run in the cloud. Last but not least, let us talk about sustainability. FlexFrame can help you to be more sustainable by optimally using the potential of your available hardware infrastructure through application virtualization. So you have very good control on your applications and can move them between the available resources and can care for optimal application placement. Also, we have utilized in the past and are still utilizing Fujitsu Primargy servers for the best on-prem performance and efficiency, but customers can now also integrate and reuse existing infrastructure with the new FlexFrame concept. Because we are not bound to one kind of infrastructure any longer, but can integrate existing environments into FlexFrame, which helps us and helps you being more sustainable. Additionally, Fujitsu offers complementary services. For example, Fujitsu Best Place. This helps you to decide whether the cloud or on-premise is suited better for your applications. And it can be used to utilize the hybrid capabilities that FlexFrame brings you with the different system providers and the possibilities to go hybrid. Fujitsu System Inspection Service can also help you improving the infrastructure utilization. This collects information about a longer period of time about your infrastructure and utilization, and can identify bottlenecks, but also over provisioning, so you can tailor afterwards, based on the report you get from the Fujitsu System Inspection Service, your infrastructure to the needs of your SAP applications. So you do not need to run more hardware than you really need to run your SAP applications. And with that, we are already nearing the end of our talk. So let me summarize what we have talked about today. So generally, FlexFrame helps you to address lots of challenges in your SAP landscape by using the potential of automation, by using the shared image concept, high availability, application virtualization. But we are now opening up to different kinds of infrastructure to allow customers to bring their own infrastructure, to allow customers to go hybrid using the cloud, and therefore enabling the intelligent enterprise. And we do that by supporting you with the single point of contact, of course. So support across all components of the landscape out of one hand, which allows you to effectively manage and administer your SAP environment. I hope that you have enjoyed the session, and if there are any questions or requests for demos or whatever, you can reach out to myself. You can find my email address here on a slide, or you can find us at the link that you see below. With that, I would like to thank you for spending the time with us, and hopefully see you either on the SUSECon this year or maybe next year. And again, as said, feel free to reach out. Thank you and take care.